A couple of early birds. Here we go. Coming in for a weekly dose of product updates. We're prepared to turn on the fire hose and douse you with all sorts of new stuff that's appeared since last week or yesterday. I think I got tripped up yesterday in a session with a client by something that had been added that morning, and I
Oh,
hadn't seen it. It just
oh yeah. I had this thing where they added like they're changing some of the features, and I was doing a training call, and I went in and everything's changed. I'm like, guys, don't worry. I know what I'm doing. It's just HubSpot keeps changing things. It's a good thing. They're updating. It's a good thing, but I need to just take a second.
it's slightly difficult in a training call, isn't it? Like
Exactly.
you're supposed to look like you know what you're doing, and then you have to go into that knowledge of how the HubSpot developers think, so you can work out what they've done with it.
Oh my God,
I
yeah.
think we'll probably kick things off. So for those of you that are here and seeing a new face, this is Shalini, who is going to. Do you want to introduce yourself? And
Yes.
Shalini is going to do the first half of this week's updates.
I'm Shalini. I work as a platform consultant at BabelQuest. I have been in the HubSpot ecosystem for about 5, 6 years now. So I have been geeking out about all sorts of product updates for a really long time. And I'm hoping to bring some really good goodies to you guys today. Cool. Okay. So shall we start?
Let's go.
Um,
Yeah.
So we're starting with one of the biggest improvements to analytics. This is my
Mm.
favorite thing because if you are a super user of HubSpot and you want to just look at your Hub reports and dashboards, you don't have to keep navigating away anymore because now we have a centralized reporting experience where you can manage reports, dashboards, insights, all of that in one place. And to show you my screen, Chris, can you just confirm that you can see the reports tab? Perfect.
I
Thank
can
you.
see the reports tab. Yes.
Um, so now, if you come to either reports or dashboards, you have my dashboards and my report in one place, as well as all of your analytics suite, all of the reports that you have out of the box that comes with HubSpot in one place. So you don't have to juggle to Marketing Hub, Sales Hub, reports, dashboards. They're all in one place, which I think is absolutely amazing. It makes my life so much easier to kind of build reports, build dashboards, be able to reference things, go and see how the team is doing. And
This is a beta, isn't it? You've got to turn it on. Um,
yes, it
but
is. And it's
hopefully,
also available for all hubs and tiers as well.
and it's going to stop people building hundreds and hundreds of custom reports, because that's the big thing in portals. You kind of go in and there's 900 custom reports and you think, why?
Yep.
So if anybody listening, show your team this, turn on the beta, and it'll stop them cluttering up all your beautiful reporting space.
Absolutely. And to piggyback off of that, you can also add custom tags to reports. So, what this means is you can go in and organize your reports to be this is a board report, this is a sales report. And then, whenever someone's going to go create a new custom report, like Chris says, they can just select a tag and see what reports already exist and not try to create something that might already be there. So super useful. The one thing that you need to do is set your tag. So you can do it here. You can click what tag each is. And then if you want to manage those tags, you can click out and then create different tags, color code them, which I love. I love a bit of color coding. Anything that is big, important can be red. Anything that's like, okay, we're good with it, that can be a yellow. So you can do all of these creative things and organize your reports in a way that is really meaningful for your team. Um, and then the next bit we have is multiple dashboards in this sales workspace. Again, another thing that I'm super excited about because a lot of times when we're working out of the sales workspace, we're working on leads, deals, etc. We really lose sight of what we are working towards. Sometimes there might be some call targets, some email targets. I want to see how I'm performing compare to other reps, or I want to see how much revenue I'm bringing in these report formats. You can go in, and this is something, it is a beta, you have to enable it in your platform. You can come in, you can select what dashboards you have, you can manage which dashboards you want your sales team to be able to access through this. And then all of these reports get auto filtered by the ownership. So you don't have to make sure that the dashboards are already auto filtered by owner or set those individually. They get filtered through your ownership. So these will show any data that is relevant to me, all the calls that I have made, all the actual conversation I've had, and I have all these KPIs on the left for me to then compare what I'm actually doing with. And it really brings a lot of meaning to the work that I'm doing. It's not just I'm working in a silo somewhere, but it's all actionable. It's all related to a goal that I'm working towards. Cool. And then we have displaying external LinkedIn posts. So this is something that I find really helpful because you might have your personal accounts connected to have thought leadership type posts. And sometimes when I know Chris sometimes posts from his main LinkedIn, sometimes from HubSpot. And when you do that, when you post from your main LinkedIn, earlier that wouldn't show up on HubSpot, and now you can see that and you can see the data for it. So as an example here, I have, you can see I've filtered out Chris's personal LinkedIn and published from external source, and you can see what happens with the post in HubSpot itself. You don't have to navigate away from LinkedIn, navigate away from HubSpot to be able to see how the post is performing.
That's really cool. Definitely didn't post that through HubSpot, so you pulled it in and it's showing all the data. Oh, nice.
Exactly, exactly. And then we have support for lead and custom object association labels. So this is another step towards, I guess, standardizing lead as an object that HubSpot is going on. We all have a lot of thoughts and feelings around this, but what I really like is now I can have these different lead objects. If I go to the data model and let's say I have a custom object called agent records, I can add leads as an actual association to that agent record, and I can have different labels to it. And what this looks like in practice, I have an example here. So you'll see associated agent record. Hannah Fisher is a partner on the lead object. I think this really helps connect those dots that you have. So let's say if you are an event company, for example, and you have a lot of these different leads and you want to attach them to these multiple events that they are attending, and these events are all custom objects. You can then link them and associate them. You can make them as, okay, are they attending as an attendee, or are they a vendor, or are they a business? So you can have all of these different labels to manage your data more efficiently. And then we have customizing section headers and summary for CPQ codes. So this is another step towards making the code template more functional for the teams. I know previously with the legacy versions as well, there were a lot of complaints about how much we can customize the codes. And this really helps because you can make adjustments at the code level and make it fast for you to, for the sales reps to then create and send codes to buyers. So what this looks like, it's essentially like the drag and drop that we've been using on the email editors and landing page and blogs. So you can decide what sections you have, you can drag and drop where they line up and what you want to show, what you don't want to show. You can also have this summary section. You can edit it on what you want the summary to show, whether you want it to show when the agreement is starting on, the terms of the agreement, the discount, the value. Um, and then you can also change the header. So if you want the header to have expiration date, for example, if you don't want it to have the expiration date, you want to change the name of the quote, the label, you can do all of those different edits within this. I don't work a lot with code templates, but I'm sure sales reps, they would find this really incredibly useful.
I think it's just getting better and better. I think to the point where HubSpot themselves would happily admit that the quoting solution was not the best. And I think if you look at these and the speed that these quoting updates are coming out, the whole quote part of the configure price quote is just moving along really well, and it's
Yes.
really good to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that there are definitely sales reps up there who just want to make some edits to the codes and they had to go all the way around. And now they can just do it within the code itself, which I think is super awesome. Um, and then we have syncing owner bidirectionality between HubSpot and Salesforce. So this really helps make sure ownership information is consistent across systems. And if there are updates happening on either of the system, that gets reflected in Salesforce, in HubSpot, it improves a lot of the cross-team collaboration. We can have better automation. Can have better reporting, more accurate reporting, and we don't need to constantly try to look for manual updates or try to say, okay, the ownership has changed in Salesforce, we need to change it in HubSpot, or it's changed in HubSpot, we need to change it in Salesforce. So it does that automatically, which I think saves a lot of time for us HubSpot admins or Salesforce admins who need to kind of make sure that data is flowing consistently. And then another thing that I am super, super excited about, this is so relevant for marketers, where content send time optimization is now a feature where it analyzes recipient behavior and it will automatically send emails with at an ideal time for each individual recipient. So it's not something that is like, oh, I've looked at your company and this is generally the time that would work well. It actually looks at all of your recipients' individual data, analyzes it, and makes sure it sends it at a time when it can maximize engagement and campaign performance. And what this looks like is when you come to any of your emails and you go to schedule, you'll see optimized send time for each contact. And you can put a range. So you can say, I want the optimal time to be within the next 24 hours, or it can go up to 168 hours. I think that's like 5 days. I'm not sure of the math there, but you can use all sorts of customization. You can use a custom time frame between dates as well. So let's say if I send it today, if I send this out entirely to today, and I can tell HubSpot, okay, but I want you to find the right time between today and end of this week, I can go in and set that time frame, and I can set, okay, this is the earliest time, and let's say I want the latest time to be 1 p.m. And HubSpot will go in, analyze each of those recipients and see what their opening time behavior is, and then send the email out at a time which will most likely make sure they open that email. I think this is super powerful tool.
Really is this. When you think about people going into work and they'll open their emails first thing in the morning, if the email arrives then and it's top of the list, then someone might read it, as opposed to arriving in the middle of the night. It's going to bleep and make your phone annoy you, or just be completely ignored. So,
Exactly.
lovely.
I know that I always read my emails first thing in the morning, but I don't read any marketing emails then. And during lunch is when I'll go through marketing emails and see if there's the newsletters I subscribe to. So I'm pretty sure that's where HubSpot then sees that and goes like, oh, she really does open these emails at lunch, and then go from that. I wonder how much of that aspect will also come into play as we improve on these features, where it actually looks at, okay, is she opening a work email or is she opening a marketing email?
Mm.
Can we send her this during lunch, and that'll have a better open engagement rate? Um,
How far into the back end of that functionality can we get? Can we kind of dig in and create a property and use it to? Now I want to
exactly.
play with that. Let's okay. I'm not going to
I
play
mean,
with that now, but
yeah, and the thing with the Gmail is that or Gmail or Outlook, they do filter marketing emails out already. So the information
mm,
is already there. It's just how we can in the future maybe enhance and bring that and utilize that more. Okay, and then we have auto-filling smart properties. Now you can schedule automatic updates for your smart properties. So what this looks like is in the data agent, you go into your manage tab, we have this property has HubSpot. So we sometimes we want to prospect people, companies, and individuals based on whether they're already using HubSpot or not. And now this is data that might change every month. They might not have HubSpot today, but they might get HubSpot next month, or they might be considering it in 3 months' time, or they might have it and they have a renewal date coming up. So what this does is whatever
Mhm.
prompt that we have put in, the AI will refresh it every month to see if there's new information, if there's something changed. So we can set it on a schedule, we can set it on record creation. And what I love is you can see this coming soon button, which basically, if you have a list and
Mm.
people are getting added or removed from the list, it can pick that up and refresh the value based on that, which I think is super cool. And also with property value changes. So let's say someone's job title, we had no idea what their job title was, but now we know their job title is CEO, and we definitely want to see what if they are using HubSpot or not. I can set it up as if property value changes, I want it to do the research and find out if that company is using HubSpot or not. And you can also schedule it for whenever you want the refresh to happen, the frequency as well, daily, weekly, monthly, what time of the day. Again, super useful information. I know a lot of my clients also get a lot of information from AI by asking it to search the government websites and pick up information about the company from the LinkedIn page. And setting something up like this will where it refreshes the content. Let's say a company has changed ownership, they got bought in. That gets reflected here the next month we do the refresh. So I love the way we are kind of using AI to work hand in hand and do the research and do the grunt work for us, while we can then focus on taking that information and, let's say, sending them the nurture they need to, or asking the sales rep, hey, this company has recently bought HubSpot because they didn't have HubSpot 1 month before. Let's reach out and see if they need our help. So yeah, super exciting stuff. Onwards to you, Chris.
The one thing worth pointing out there
Yeah,
as well is that yes, it does use HubSpot credits, but I think there's this almost this idea now that we can start thinking about a direct relationship between a credit and something that happens. So we can actually start to think, I know a credit is 0.01 pence. So if I use 100 of them, that's 1p. And if that little information change leads to us selling something to somebody a month later, then that's direct ROI. And I really like the fact that we can create a direct relationship there. Um,
absolutely. A lot of times it's also just you might be paying someone to do some of these research as well, where instead of paying them to do the research, you can pay them to actually take actions from the research.
okay, so we have talked about autofill smart properties. I have lost all my screens. Line item custom properties. So this is a bit of a one to get your head around, but the whole idea of line items, they're a superset of the product object within HubSpot, essentially representing a product at deal level. So a modification to a line item is independent of the product object. Basically means if you're ever to update, for example, the price of a product, it wouldn't retroactively update all the existing line items on closed won deals. But you can do some fun things with line item custom properties. I was just trying to think of an example to illustrate it. So I built something called a deal price book, which is a property sync price books. If you're not in sales, you might have different price books for different sectors or parts of the world. Um, so I built a property at deal level called price book that you can set, and that's going to tell you, where in the world someone is, and this is a simple sync property. And then at line item level, I've built a calculation that's going to show, or I built an equation that's going to show the recommended discount here, price book discount, And there we go. Price book discount based on where it is in the world. Don't worry too much about the code, but do take away that there are some fantastic things you can do with custom code in HubSpot. But basically, when I get to the products on a deal, you can see it's telling me the deal price book and it's telling me the discount I should be adding. So just a little thing, but actually quite fun and interesting. And the fact that they've been detached from product properties is quite a meaningful thing. Replaceable Analyse tabs on landing pages, website pages, target accounts, social, and blogs. So this actually goes back to some of the stuff Shalini was talking about earlier, where we were kind of looking at better reporting. Here we're in the Analyze tab for the Analyze area for landing pages, and again, lots of the time we see people build reports that already exist. But with this new piece of functionality, I can go into my Analyze tab and I can add and manage dashboards. So I can decide again, do I want a landing page specific dashboard that's specific to my organization? So I'm not trying to use the whatever HubSpot gave me and sort of hammer my business into that hole. I can actually see something that's specifically relevant to what I'm trying to do. And we can just, I love this. You can just add a dashboard directly from here. I think all the stuff they're doing around dashboards and visibility is making a huge difference. I used to hack together a dashboard which would have, the overall marketing results and then a link to the specific Analyze page. But now I don't think we need to do that quite as much. So there's a real thing for thinking about how can we use these best.
I think it also really gives companies that flexibility to not have to rely on these out of the box reports, and HubSpot really saying, okay, we're giving you the tools, we're giving you everything, you can do whatever you want with it and make it make sense for your particular business. Instead of trying to make the business fit HubSpot, HubSpot is now fitting into the business, which I think is great.
Yeah, it's that beautiful. We're going to wrap HubSpot round what we're trying to do, not the other way around. And again, it's people that do specific things. If you've got somebody that's just handling landing pages, give them what they need where they need it, so they can manage, analyze. Basically, people need to be able to see what they need to see and do what they need to do, and that's literally it from a work point of view. So let's make it nice and easy for them. We now have increased project pipeline. So I don't know, I would say, show of hands in the chat pane, how many people have actually even discovered the projects object in HubSpot. If you haven't, it is in beta, and we've got projects, which is a beta. You need to turn it on in the data model, but it's kind of, we can see HubSpot moving towards taking some of the heavy lifting for some of the project management functionality. And we can see that we've got, last week we talked about task lists in projects. Now we're able to talk about having more project pipelines. So I think the limit is now going up to 50. I'm not sure how I'm going to use that yet. I'm not sure it's suddenly treading on the toes of a teamwork or a ClickUp or anything like that, but it does give you an extra piece of functionality, and we can build more project pipelines, we can build more tasks. So I would watch this space because I think it's going to get bigger and better.
Yeah, I think I've had a hard time trying to really utilize this, but I've had a few clients who've had these really big implementation stages, which the stages itself are similar across all clients, all of their clients, but they need something where they can just track the different stages in HubSpot so they can then report back on, okay, we have X amount of clients in this stage of implementation, X amount in this, and then the payment usually for these clients happens after the implementation is done. So this is where that projects that usually we would have used something like a custom object or tickets or something to track that. And that is where this has become really useful to have like its own section of these are the stages, these are the tasks, these are the dependent tasks. And it's pretty high level, like Chris said. It doesn't really replace Monday or any of the other big project management tools, but it's good to have it in HubSpot. And there's also integrations with the other project management tools which we could leverage and just make sure we are moving things along in HubSpot. The actual meat of the project can stay on those tools, but then we can be able to track the stages here.
You're absolutely spot on. It's your project managers can use whatever they need, but we can make the connections and we can show what our teams need to see in HubSpot. The next one we've got is custom user properties are now available for all enterprise paid seats. It used to be just sales and service. If you are lucky enough to have an enterprise hub at one level, now we can build user properties for people that have a core seat. And by user properties, this is where we're thinking about users as an object. I've got a little note here that says demo if time. I'm not 100% sure if we've got too much time to be looking at this, but one of the things that we can do with user properties is we can build user reports. So we've got new data points, if we want to track our team and have dietary requirements or date of birth or something like that, and there you go, I created dietary preferences. But we can also use user properties to trigger workflows. So it could be a new user with a core seat, and we build some properties against them, and we could trigger a workflow that delivers them a very specific onboarding program for a marketer, for example. We might want to build out reports and see what they're up to. So loads of stuff there. Can't show you this one because I've got Gemini connected to HubSpot, but it's our HubSpot portal, and I'd have to show you probably data that I can't show you. Google Gemini, we can now connect to HubSpot, so you can see here we can query HubSpot from within Gemini, which again is just a nice, useful thing that some people are going to want to do. So that sort of deep research and applying super clever Gemini, if you've got it, to your HubSpot data. We can now, for those of you that work in accounts, we can now create a credit memo or a credit note. I think different people call them different things. We've always had the ability to invoice, but exit without saving just for lurks around in Commerce Hub. Again, it's in beta, so previously we could create invoices. Now we can create credits. So again, going to be useful for people that are doing everything in HubSpot, but also if you happen to be, you want a credit memo against an account in HubSpot that people can see, but it's connected across a bridge to Zero, for example. So again, little changes to Commerce Hub that are gradually making it worthwhile. Sandbox support for forms. Again, for those of you that have got enterprise at one hub and the ability to spin up a sandbox, HubSpot sandboxes, if you looked at them a year ago, they weren't a true sandbox and they were frustrating, and you could basically just build something and then rebuild it somewhere else. We've now got support for forms, marketing emails, our objects, segments, and lists, and we can now deploy them. So we can build and test a form in Sandbox, and we can deploy it to production. The final one for this week is improvements to the product updates page. So HubSpot have been listening to feedback, and they're trying to make it a little bit easier to see your betas. And if you haven't interacted with this, it's worth interacting with. We're in it fairly much on a daily basis. You can see your betas, you can give feedback. And I always say, if you've got feedback, give feedback, because it does go straight to the product teams. Sometimes they'll get in touch and ask you, and you get a chance to sort of drive what's going on in HubSpot. So go back and have a look. You can see things like impact. You can see where it's going to be. You can see all the public, private, live, in development, sunset, and the search function's much better as well. You've even got that nice release calendar, so you can see when that functionality is coming to your specific portal. And that tells us that it's the 3rd of December, and this is a HubSpot product update. Look out for some of the other things that we've got coming up. I don't have the links, but I think we've got a HubSpot user group on adoption coming up, which should be really good because that's the big thing. We deploy a HubSpot portal and then we kind of forget about it, and people gradually stop using it. So we'll do sign up for that. I will stop sharing it. I will say thank you to Shalini. Well done, first time.
Thank
Thank
you.
you to everybody else, and go have fun spinning up betas and playing with your product updates. Cheers.
Bye.